Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing? Welcome to Peter Likes Books. And I have been waiting to make this video for a very, very long time. Probably for like the last month, I have been wanting to make this video. So I am finally sitting down and making this video. This is kind of a weird place for me to make the video. I'm sitting on the floor in front of my bookshelf. I had to move the chair. I had to move all this other stuff out of the way so I could sit down here because my pile of books that I have pulled for the summer is sitting up against this wall. I have pulled all these books from the bookshelves as well as books from the basement that I want to read this summer because I am back in, if you haven't watched me for a while, I am really back into reading physical copy books. I started like last November or December, and at any given time I'm probably reading like 6 or 7 books. So I wanted to do a video where I showed you guys all of the books that I pulled to read this summer. Now that doesn't mean that I'm not going to add some, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to buy some. These are just the books that I am like hoping to read this summer. Now I have to tell you, I have probably, let me just kind of give a guesstimate here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Let's say 15, 30, I have like 45 books pulled. So the possibility of me reading all these books this summer is probably not going to happen. But I will tell you this, I am 17 books ahead of my Goodreads goal right now. So very excited about that. Also stay tuned because I have the Alex Cross updates coming very soon. I'm on the last book right now for June. I'm just kind of like powering through them. And also, my friend Nikki and I are going to host a Christmas in July read-along. We have picked 2 Christmas thrillers that we are going to read during July. So we're not going to make a big deal out of it. We're just going to announce what the books are, and I'll be making that video sometime next week. So, or maybe even tomorrow. I don't know. So if you guys want to read some Christmas thrillers in July, I'll kind of explain the backstory on how we came up with that. But I'm really excited about that. The 2 books that we have picked are books that I've wanted to read since I got them last Christmas. So I'm real excited about that. Okay, now before I get into this, I do want to share with you guys, and I'm not going to read like the synopses. I mean, I have too many books to read you guys all the synopses. These are literally, I just sat in front of these bookshelves and I just was like, I pulled out a book and was like, do I want to read this? Is this something that kind of gives me summer notes? Is this something I want to read this summer? There's a lot of classics in here. There's some kind of artsy books. There's a lot of LGBTQIA plus books. There's some rereads in here. So I'm really excited about this, but there's no rhyme or reason to how I picked these books. Just, do these seem like books that I might want to read this summer? So, but before I get into that, I do want to share with you now, in my kitchen at any given time, I have the stack of books that I am currently reading. So this is the stack of books that I am currently reading, which I'm going to share with you guys in just a second because there's some changes since my last video. And then I also have a stack of books that I've either started before and kind of put to the side, but these are like the next up that I'm going to read. So, and sometimes I go over here and I just like grab a book. But anyway, let me share with you what I am currently reading right now. Okay, so this is a new one that I got, and this is called, so I'm really into those slasher books right now. I just finished the Audible book, You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. It was actually very good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And I'm reading Clown in a Cornfield, and I just bought book 2. I think I bought book 3 as well. So I'm really into like the slasher horror novels because I love the horror movies as well for summer. So I looked it up, and this book was recommended. It's called Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy, and it is actually a novella. And it's about this guy like on this road trip, and he ends up stopping at like this like rest stop, and he gets stuck in the bathroom, and it's like all this weird stuff happens. So that's what I'm reading. I'm reading that right now. I'm still reading the vintage novel, which I think I'm going to buy some more of these like old vintage novels because I'm really loving this. And this is $80 to Stanford, which is by Lucille Fletcher, who is the same author that wrote Sorry, Wrong Number, that was made into a movie with what is this box back here? With Barbara Stanwyck. Okay, and then I'm also reading this summer, this is something I wanted to do for years and years because I read these as a kid. I think like the first 2 or 3. I'm reading the Witch's Sister series by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor, and I'm loving it. I didn't know it took place in Indiana, or if I did, I didn't remember that. So I'm reading that as well. And then I'm still reading book 1 in Clown in a Cornfield. Loving this. absolutely loving it. If you like horror novels, I would definitely recommend Clown in a Cornfield. It reads very similar to just like watching a horror movie. And then I am reading book 1 in the Jonathan Mayberry Rotten Ruin Vampire Zombie series, and I'm loving this as well. I'm not very far into it yet, but I'm loving it, and I have all the books in the series, so I'll be reading this throughout the summer. And then I am still reading A Lonely Broadcast, book 1 by Kel Byron. I really, really like this, and it's kind of she's an independent author, and I found it on this, I can't remember what the website's called, but I'm loving this book. It's the print is very small and the pages are very long, and so when I'm reading a couple chapters a night, this is the book that takes me the longest to read a chapter, so it's just taking me a while to get through. And then I am almost done with Kyla Stone's book 1 in the Nuclear Dawn book 1 series, or Point of Impact Nuclear Dawn series. Loving this. So she writes a lot of post-apocalyptic books, and this is book 1 in her Nuclear Dawn series, which takes place in Miami. The series that I started with, which is called Edge of Collapse, which I just realized the other day that like 2 years ago I bought the first 3 books on Audible. They come as like a collection. Takes place in Michigan. This one takes place in Miami, and I'm loving it. And then I went back and I started, so I was reading, I think I have it here somewhere. Hold on a second. The Surprise Party by R.L. Stine, which I can put back in the bookshelf. I have I was reading The Surprise Party by R.L. Stine, and then I realized that you can get the anthologies. And so this is the first 4 books in the Fear Street series. And so I'm starting with The New Girl, is what I'm reading right now. It's book 1. And then I am still reading Ice Planet Barbarians. It's okay. I kind of like get real bored of it, and so I just kind of like read a couple pages and then I put it down. My neighbor, who I am reading this with to talk about at the pool, has not even made it through chapter 1 yet. So she was like, I thought we were going to read it all summer. I said, 1 book all summer? She goes, I've got other things to read. I said, so do I. So do I. So anyway, I am right now probably like a third of the way through it. It's okay. I mean, the thing about it is, I kind of, and I will say this because I said it on my vlog, a lot of people when I mentioned this book came to me and said, did you not know about those books? They're really problematic. No, I didn't know about that. My channel is for adult readers, and I think that you should vet out any book that you're going to read, whether that is Surprise Party or whether that is Ice Planet Barbarians. You should vet out any book and look up and see if there's, because we all have different triggers for different things, and I am just sharing books with you that were recommended. This book was recommended to me by people in my vlog. So I didn't know anything about it when I started it. I can understand why that people think it's problematic. I can totally understand that. But I also don't think it's, my responsibility to inform everybody of every trigger warning in every book. So if you're going to read any books that I talk about or recommend, please do your own research on trying to find out if it is a book that you should read or not. But anyway, this book came highly recommended to me by a lot of people. It's viral on TikTok, the whole series. I think there's 20 books in the series. I don't love it that I would want to read all 20 books in the series, but I don't know. The only thing that keeps me going is I kind of want to find out more about it. So if you don't know what it's about these women that are abducted and then they land on this planet anyway. So, okay, so those are the books that I am currently reading, and I'm just trying to whip through these. So the next books that I have, so I'm really, I just finished Joan Didion's fiction book, Play It As It Lays, and I absolutely loved it. And I literally got online and I bought everything by Joan Didion. I bought, and then I realized I had it in the basement in hardback, but I'm preferring reading paperbacks. Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. So I think this is the next one that I'm going to read of hers. And then Into the Forest by Jean Hegland, which is a more like literature-based, a more literary adaptation of like a post-apocalyptic book. And then Murder Road by James Patterson. That's just kind of like fluff for the pool. And then the next book in the Edge of Collapse series, I'm kind of going back and forth with the Kyla Stone books, is Edge of Madness. And this is book 2 in the series. And then I have been trying so hard. I love these, but I go back and forth between loving short stories or not. Crash Diet by Jill McCorkle. And I don't even I'm like 3 stories or 4 stories into it. I kind of put it to the side. And then this book was actually something that was recommended to me. It's shown up in a lot of my videos over here by my neighbor across the street. And it is J.C. Kinney's A Literal Mess. And it's a cozy mystery series about a literary agent that returns home to southern Indiana when her father passes away. J.C. Kinney is actually a local author in Indiana, and I just bought book 1 of like his other 2 series. So really excited about reading some of that this summer. And then this young adult book that I bought years ago, and it's called Laura Ingalls is Ruining My Life. I think I've talked about it over here before. So, all right, let's get into, I gotta put those back in the kitchen. Let's get into the books that I pulled to read this summer. All right. We should probably start with this one because this is like the list that this is like the grouping that I started with. I think these are like most of the newer books that I bought. So I think I've shown most of these before. So I have Joan Didion's South and West. Joan Didion's Let Me Tell You What I Mean. Joan Didion's A Book of Common Prayer. Joan Didion's Blue Nights. Joan Didion's The White Album. Joan Didion's The Last Thing He Wanted. Wild Spaces. I feel like I just showed all this stuff maybe in a haul. Wild Spaces by S.L. Coney. This was another book from the Last Broadcast website. Well, not the website, but the website that's, it's like these strange, bizarre books that are all independent authors. And so I bought this one as well. Panic in the Panhandle, which is by J.C. Kinney, who is a cozy mystery writer that I just talked about. Record Store Reckoning, which is also by J.C. I think that's by J.C. Kinney, the local cozy mystery. I did just show these all in a haul. Clown in the Cornfield 2, Hammer the Dog, and The Crash, which are both post-apocalyptic books that take place in Vegas. These are not going to be all repeats, I swear. Catalyst, Downward Cycle by J.K. Franks, and The Plague of Days, which were both apocalyptic books that were recommended to me. Okay, let me put these back in order. Joan Didion, of course, being on top, and then I can arrange these afterwards. All right, so the next, I have 3 stacks of these, so I've got to go through these and get through these. Okay, so the next one is called Texas Summer, a novel by Terry Southern, and this came highly recommended to me. I don't really know much about this. Harold Stevens, the intro is by, or the preface is by Rip Torn, fantastic actor. Coming of age Valentine to the 50s, Texas landscape has an understated, flat-spoken charm. Southern's sensitive coming-of-age novel faithfully evokes Texas red dirt country in the 1950s. It's supposed to be really great. And then Russell Banks, who's one of my absolute favorite authors of life. I've read almost everything by him. Rule of the Bone was one of my favorite books that I've ever read of his. I think I actually may have pulled it to read this summer. If I didn't, maybe I bought it on Audible. I don't know. But this is Russell Banks's, it's not necessarily a book of short stories. It's like 3 stories that kind of converge to with each other. So I'm like thinking now I kind of want to move this to the front of the list. I got to put maybe some books over here that I think I want to move this to the front of the list. Maybe this too. I don't know. Like I want to read all these books because I'm looking and it's like Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor. I really, really want to read. I've heard such good things about this through the years. So got Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor. And then back on Tuesday is, I don't even have the cover for it anymore, is a novel by David Gilmour. Okay, I read this years and years and years ago. I don't even know when it came out. Let's see when it came out. I have wanted to reread this book so many years. It came out in 1986 or 1987. I don't think I read this. I was still using when I read this. I got sober in 1994, and I read this before I got sober, and I've read it one time since. So it's about this guy that goes to Jamaica with his daughter, and it's like his last vacation that he's ever going to have with his daughter because his wife is leaving him. And so it's basically just like 2 nights of like this woman takes care of his daughter, and then anyway, and she's like in this hotel room the whole time, and he's just going through Jamaica just like drinking like crazy. It's very much like Rum Diaries if you got, anyway. So it's just kind of like this journey and this descent into drinking. It's very kind of sad, but really interesting at the same time with the backdrop of Jamaica. So I want to read that. Okay, I am such a huge lover of Jerry Spinelli, who wrote Stargirl. I don't know if you guys have ever read Stargirl, love Stargirl. They're middle grade books, but I really don't think you can understand the concepts until you're a little bit older. I read Stargirl probably 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and absolutely loved it. I did try to watch the movie, the movie that they made about it, and I just didn't think it was very good. But anyway, so several years ago, I got this at Half Price Books, and it is The Warden's Daughter by Jerry Spinelli, and it's about a girl whose dad is a warden and her mom has left or passed away, I think. And so some kids had free houses, some kids had hideouts. I had the Tower of Death. And so she is like living on top of this women's women's jail. And so she gets to know these women and kind of learn about like more about like herself and her relationship with her mother and stuff like that. So this is supposed to be really good. I love Jerry Spinelli. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Colors from the Colors, which was one of my mom's favorite books. Member of the Wedding I loved Member of the Wedding. I think I might even have it in this list. So anyway, Little Cards from the Colors for classics. Ernest Hemingway's The Garden of Eden, which was Hemingway's last novel. I read this again when I was still using and I hadn't gotten sober yet. And I read it one summer. I think it might have been the summer before I got sober, and just absolutely fell in love with this book. And it's about a couple that goes, I think, to south of France. And it deals a lot with like gender identity, and it deals a lot with finding yourself and things like that. And I love this book. It's kind of an abnormal book for Hemingway, but it was one of my absolute favorite books of Hemingway's. So I'm going to reread that. This is another reread, which is Stuart Onan's The Speed Queen. Stuart Onan is another writer that I've read almost everything by. And so this was the very first book of his that I ever read, and it's about a woman that sells her rights to her story while she's on death row. She actually sells them to Stephen King, which is interesting because Stuart Onan is very good friends with Stephen King. So it's about a woman who is like working at a gas station, and she gets this boyfriend, and it's about their kind of like a journey through meth addiction and the road where it takes them, and somebody gets killed and all this kind of stuff. This book is so fantastic. I read this, I can remember, with my ex. We were driving to, it was like our very first trip we ever took together, to Biloxi, Mississippi, and he was driving, and I sat in the passenger seat and read this the whole time and drank Fountain Pops. She drinks a lot of Fountain Pops in this book. Now I'm like, which books should I like pull out? I'm pulling them all in my to-read jar. Okay, or to-read pile. The next book is Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, which I bought again last year. I don't know where my copy of it is. So I wanted to give this a reread because I've seen a lot of people reference this lately, and I have to be honest with you. When I read this book, my mom and her friends, when I was growing up, I think kind of strange in retrospect, when I was like in high school, they loved like the poetry of Anne Sexton and the writing of Sylvia Plath, both who took their lives. And I can remember my mom talking a lot about this book when I was growing up, and a lot of my friends loved this book. I can remember reading this book and not really getting it, not really getting why people so connected to this book. So I was like, I think I'm going to try to read this again and see if it affects me differently. I just remember it kind of being like her just like walking all over New York City. I don't know, I didn't really get it. I don't know, maybe if I read it at a different point in my life. Oh, I can take one of these books out of my list because I just watched this show, and that is The Midnight Club. I would highly, highly recommend that show, but I can take that out of my list. Okay. Black Rabbit Summer by Kevin Brooks. Don't know anything about it, but I put it in my list. Oh, this book I bought, I don't know when I must have bought this, with my cousin Caroline months ago, but Punk 57, I'm probably going to take this out of my list too. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to read that one. Florida by Lauren Groff. Okay, this was highly, highly recommended. National Book Award finalist, winner of the year. This is supposed to be so good about just the state of Florida and a bunch of weird. It's like very like Carl Hiaasen, if you've ever read any of his stuff. This was another book that I bought, and people recommended this to me as far as romance. I don't know, I might get in trouble for recommending this one too. I don't know, but people recommended this one to me. And that is book 1 in Lila Sage's series of the Done and Dusted books. I don't know anything about this, but it's supposed to be a romance. And then The Complete Stories of Flannery O'Connor. I feel like I kind of want to start this one sooner than later, because I really would love to read this. Oh my god, I forgot about some of these stories. Oh, and some of them I've never even read. So I really kind of like to get this started sooner rather than later. And then the last pile that I have, which is another 15 books. You ready? Okay. The first book is one of my all-time favorite books, and it is Cruddy. And I love it so much, but it's been so long since I read it that I kind of forgot. And it's Linda Berry's Cruddy. I'm like looking to see if I have her books right behind me, because I think I do, all of her cartoon books. Yeah, so this is Linda Berry, the cartoonist, and I collect all of her books. She was went to Evergreen College with all the other cartoonists that like worked on The Simpsons and stuff, and she's a really, really famous like cartoonist. And she wrote about Marlis and Mabon, and I'm just like absolutely in love with everything Linda Berry. And so this is a novel that she wrote years ago called Cruddy, and it's about a girl that's a drug addict, and it's absolutely fantastically done, and I haven't read it long enough that I've forgotten it. So I was like, you know what, this summer I think, oh, she's got a lot of drawings in here, I forgot that. So I was like, you know what, this summer I think I'm gonna read this again. I'm actually gonna put this in my newer pile. I'll put that over there to read next. And then Dancer from the Dance is by Andrew Hollowan. And I think this is a book about AIDS, like the early AIDS crisis, like the early years of the AIDS crisis. And this was, I'm trying to read more gay fiction and become more educated on queer and gay fiction. And this is a book that I found on a list of like the best gay novels ever. So I have that one. We Disappear by Scott Heim. Okay, years and years and years ago, I read the book, what was the book called? Mysterious Skin, and then they ended up making it to a movie. Very raw, I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. But this is about, I've been wanting to read this for a while. This is about this guy who goes home to take care of his mom. I think he's a drug addict too. And he goes back to Kansas because there's a missing kid. And his mom used to like babysit this kid or something like that. And so it's kind of this discovery about himself. I actually think I'm gonna move that book to the top of my list too. And then this is a new cozy mystery series that I bought a couple months ago. And this is book 1 in the humorous Beaver Island. I thought it was Beaver Island, Michigan. It's not. It's Florida, I think. Vitamin C. And it is by Maya Ross. I've shown this in a haul before. And then, oh, this is another romance that was recommended to me. I'm trying some romances this summer, okay? The Art of Catching Feelings. I have a feeling we might have to put that book to the side. Looking for Salvation of the Dairy Queen. I'm really excited about this. This is another, some of these, I think these, we're getting into the books I really kind of picked for summer. And these were books I bought last year. Like this one is called Whistling Past the Graveyard by Susan Grandel. This one's by Susan Gregg Gilmore. And these are supposed to be great, summer novels. And then these two were books, these are rereads that I actually rebought. Because, and I'm going to put these at the top too, because these were books that I read in my youth. Well, I don't know, like, I think I read these after I got sober, but they both, I think, take place in Indiana, and they're both about crimes. And the first one is A Crime in the Neighborhood by Suzanne Barron. I can remember getting this book, it was like this smaller book at the library. I think I read it like 3 times. And then the other one is, well, I don't know if this one takes place in Indiana, but I do know The Bright Forever takes place in Indiana. So I'm definitely moving those to the top of the list too. We're going to have to rearrange some lists. And then The Last Chance Texaco by Brent Hardiger, who he's a gay author that wrote the Geography Club series, which I read every book in that series and I absolutely loved it. Tim Robbins, Still Life with Woodpecker. So this was a book that my sociology teacher in high school recommended to us. And I remember all my friends passed it around. It doesn't take place like in a pack of Camel cigarettes or something like that. I've never read it. And I bought it a couple years ago. And so I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna read that this summer. So that's another one. What is this one? Boyfriends with Girlfriends by Alex Sanchez, another gay book that was recommended to me. Summer of '99 by J.L. Hyde, another gay book that was recommended to me. I've never read or seen the show. I've seen parts of it. Armistead Maupin's Tales of the City. But I absolutely love some of his other writing. What is the book that I love that he read? Anyway, I'm gonna try to read, you know what, I'm gonna put that to the top of the series too. And then this was a book that was recommended by Margaret Wrinkle, who wrote Comfort of Crows and Late Migrations that I just finished. And she posted this book on her Instagram, and it's called Raising Hair. A couple people have sent it to me too. It's about a woman in England that found this like injured bunny and ended up taking it and nursing it back to health. So I'm really excited about that. A new copy, I have like 5 of these, of Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises. We're gonna move that to the top of the list as well. And Carson McCullers' The Member of the Wedding and The Ballad of the Sad Cafe. So those are all the books. Woo, lots of books to read this summer. Do you think I'll get through them all? There's no way. I'm not going to get through all these. And I'll probably change them out, put some books in, take some books out as we go and stuff like that. So, and I don't know which books are behind me right now. I have no idea which books are behind me. So anyway, I know that down here is mostly graphic novels and up there is stuff that I haven't read. So anyway, let me know what you're reading this summer. If you have any recommendations, I am totally open to any recommendations. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.